Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Cancel the Service? You bet. I work in roadside assistance as a third party for a lot of insurance companies. Like most customer service jobs, we get a heck of a lot of abuse, but the most of it comes from long wait times and or not being fully covered. This happens often, but I very rarely am in the position where I get to see the fallout. Recently, I had a woman call in. She was completely pleasant, but in a huge rush, so she was a little snippy. No worries, I get it. But then it comes to letting her know that she's not covered for assistance and she has a huge out-of-pocket expense. She whines about the fact that he knows she has Roadside. Then that she supposedly set up the service earlier, so not only am I trying to charge her, but it's taking too long. And therefore, the price should be waived. Finally, she gives up and tells me I'm useless and says, just cancel it, and hangs up. Being the good rep that I am, I call her back to confirm the disconnect was intentional. She picks up, then hangs up immediately, then sends me to voicemail on follow-up calls. So as instructed, I canceled the job request. I should note intake doesn't take long, but it's annoying to go over, and if the customer doesn't know their exact location, like being on a freeway, it can take some time. A few hours later, I get a new call from an angry customer wondering where her service is at. I apologize for the frustration, ask for her reference number, and inform her that unfortunately, there isn't any service in the system. She starts going off. I do my best to calm her down and extract the needed information. Halfway through the call, I realize it's the same angry pants woman as before. When we start going over location, I remember the drop-off location and she gets excited and says, "Oh, you found my service? Is the driver on the way? It's ridiculous that it's taking this long. You should get this prioritized or expedited." To which I reply in my nicest CSR voice, "No ma'am, your service isn't in the system. I remember when we spoke earlier. As you requested, I canceled the job at that time, so it is only getting reopened now and the amount will be X. Her. That's more than it was earlier. Me. Yes, the pricing changes through the day to continuously match the market, stay competitive, and incentivize drivers to continue taking jobs at unpopular times. Her. Silent. Me. Also, we have longer ETAs at this time, so you'll want to get this payment taken care of ASAP so we can find a service provider to avoid a longer wait. I can send a text message to you to complete payment." Her. Stutters. "But I never told you to cancel it before." Me. Starting to lose patience. "Ma'am, our calls are recorded, I notate obsessively, and I called you back multiple times trying to confirm." Her. "I want to speak to your supervisor." Ranting to make me scared. Me. "No problem, one moment. It looks like there's currently a 20-minute wait for a supervisor. I'm happy to wait with you." Her. "Fine then. Get my service started." Me. "Certainly. I'll send the text for payment." She finally broke down and paid it and gave up waiting for a supervisor. She swore up and down that she was going to report me. Either way, I felt vindicated with my tiny bit of a malicious compliance. The next story is titled, HOA Vandalizes Father's Truck, Gets Immediate Justice. This happened a few years back. Our HOA has always been known to be sneaky and to flat out give false accusations on homeowners. Especially in this day with security cameras, and we can pretty easily spot out who the investigators are. Most recently, a homeowner was told she was supposed to get approval before she started re-shingling her roof. The thing is, her roof hasn't been re-shingled in 10 years, and she had no plans to do it. Things like that. Call it just a mistake, call it malicious. Well, a few years ago, we had our time to shine. It was a simple morning. I was still temporarily living with my father at the time. Well, one morning we decided to go out to get groceries, when we found that his pickup truck had been smashed into. Nothing was taken, it was just smashed into. In fact, I still have pictures from that day, just before the cops arrived. Cops arrived, they do some investigating, and found that a rock inside the truck was from a house down the street. Unfortunately, they couldn't get them to admit to the crime, nor could they prove it was even them. Understandable, criminals will grab things that they find, but it was suspicious. The rock, I should say, was a special kind of rock that no one else in the neighborhood had, some round, polished type. Very unique. After this incident, I installed a security camera on his house. Well, not 2 days later, we got an HOA violation for a vehicle eyesore that needs to be removed. Just 2 days later. I'm confused how such a letter could have been written up so fast, but I started to suspect foul play. One day, we were home and had a knock at the door. The HOA actually called a code inspection officer. The week hadn't even been over yet, so the parts to fix the truck weren't delivered yet. We weren't paying expedited shipping for damages we didn't cause, and the truck was so old insurance would probably just total it. The truck is sentimental to him, so he wasn't going to get rid of it. It still ran great. Code inspection tells my father that vehicles which do not run need to be removed. They both stop talking and take a second, and both almost say at the same time, "Don't I know you?" Turns out the code inspection officer went to the same church as my father and knew each other. This isn't the malicious compliance yet, we're only just beginning. The officer tells my father if he can show the truck starts, he's going to write it up as being in code. My father starts the truck just fine, as the engine isn't damaged. He tells him to go on with his day and to have a good one. At this point, we are furious because we're starting to suspect the HOA may have did this, as there's no way they could have possibly known so fast. Unfortunately, our turn of the street had no neighbors with security cameras until I installed one on our house, so it caught nothing specific to our incident. Down the street, these people supposedly broke into a car as well, but the camera on their house was unable to see anything. Damn. Here's where the fun begins. Fast forward a couple months after nothing happened, I decided to install a new dash cam in my car. I found a good one that uses very little power off the battery and can activate if there's any bumps to the car, even if the car is off. It just needs to be wired straight to the battery for this. It's a thinkware. A few days later, we got a violation notice for our mailbox being crooked. It wasn't crooked much, but I do remember it recently having an angle. Odd, I could just fix it, but my car was aiming straight at the mailbox. I'm thinking, no, this couldn't be possible. It only records if there's a bump. I take out the memory card, and apparently I either didn't configure it correctly, but it was recording the whole time. It never went into sleep mode. I watched as the investigator walks up to the mailbox and pushes it crooked, then writes down on his tablet his findings and takes a picture for records. I'm appalled at what I see. I have the proof I needed. Now for the malicious compliance. They wanted us to come to the board meeting and present what is going on at our address. We haven't told them yet that we had the pictures, but to summarize real fast how our HOA works, the board hires an outside company to do the grunt work, let's call it Bentry Management. We go to the meeting and sit down. Bentry Management has the one in control of our account, and I swear to you she looked like a Karen, so the name fits for her. As time goes by in the meeting, we get to discuss what is happening at our house. We present the timelines and tell them about the truck being smashed, and just 2 days later we get a letter. We asked what dates the investigator was out for that time. Karen refuses to answer it. She argues ignorantly that we should keep better care of our stuff, as if it was our fault. Then comes the mailbox incident. We tell her that we have reasons to believe that the investigator is the one that is causing damages to our property and is harassing us. Karen denies this and says that is impossible and that she knows him personally. Oh, is that so? I ask. She says, yes, why? I then pull out my laptop out of my book bag that I had been hiding, open it up to the video file already loaded, and show it to the entire board. Enter Exhibit A, I said out loud, and played the video. Karen's face is bright red. She says that is not her investigator. I then also pulled out the letter about the mailbox, which was complete with date. It matches the cooked on timestamp on the video. She still tries to claim it's not them. No, it's a coincidence. I'm sorry, but you have a vandal and it's not us. It's not? I let the video play, knowing she's falling into a pit hard right now. As the man walks towards my car, you can plain as day see Bentry Management on his shirt. She's no longer red now, she's white as a ghost. The board looks over at her and asks what she has to say about this. Karen is silent and has nothing except a few noises, which I assume was her brain trying to comprehend what just happened. I then proceed to bring up a previous case which I happened to remember before we left for the meeting, where we had a grass violation beside our house. Now this area they were claiming was actually not visible from the sidewalk due to the house shape. I asked point blank, has at any time your investigators walked on our property, illegally trespassing, knowing as per their rules, they aren't allowed to do that? Karen is visibly shaking now and mutters out, no, of course not, with her head down, unable to maintain eye contact with me. She probably feels that I have more evidence, but unfortunately I didn't. So I ask again. She asks, why? Our neighbor, whom are lawyers, literally next door to us where the side of this wall was, stands up and says, actually, that's not true. I've witnessed one of your investigators go between our houses and poke around the trash bins. Bingo. I didn't even realize she had this information. I couldn't have asked for more better timing. Karen, at this point, just starts arguing with our neighbors about no proof. The board proceeds to apologize for the incident and said they were going to discuss what is going to happen in the future about this. At that point, the meeting is over. A month passes, and we get a letter that a new person will be in charge of Bentry management and new investigators. She was fired that night. Since she was fired, my father tells me we only get the occasional blip of errors, but they correct it immediately and don't bother us really anymore. The next story is titled, I Pretend to Have a Giant Dog to Mess with the Neighborhood Karen. I want to start with, I love dogs. I had dogs 80% of my life. I love dogs. I just don't currently have a dog. Okay, with that in mind, here's my story. I just started living in this nice suburb at the beginning of this year. It's a quiet area, and my girlfriend and I really like it here. But there is a neighborhood Karen. She's your stereotypical retired woman just trying to find something to do with her day. And what she does is walk around the area complaining. Her complaints can be anything about anything. And most of the time, she leaves a note on people's mailboxes. I've gotten many of these. Things like your grass is too long or your car is dirty, etc. But when it comes to dogs, she loves to call either the police or code enforcement. A coworker/friend of mine lives close by, and Karen has called the police or whoever on his dog many times. There's even been a few fines handed out for things like dog at large, so sometimes you choose a plan and sometimes a plan chooses you. In mid-October, I was shopping with my brain firmly in low power mode, and I see the shelf of warning signs, including beware of large dog. The word large caught my eye and got my brain moving. Thoughts like, if I put this up, can I fool her? And if I do this, will I be a neighborhood hero? In the end, I decided not all heroes wear capes and put up the signs in front of my house. It took a few days for me to see Karen looking at my signs and then start staring at my house. Or at least it took me a while to see her kind of stalking my home. Some days she's kind of subtle, and some say she kind of does a wonder thing where she's pretty much pacing the area. About 3 weeks after putting up the signs, I was shopping at my local Goodwill because I'm classy like that, and I saw a 3-foot dog chain for $2. I was hatching my plan before I even had it in my hand. So there was a chain but no collar, and clearly I needed a big collar. I couldn't find a big collar, but I did find a woman's belt. It's thick with square studs on it, so it kind of looks like a collar for a large dog or maybe a small horse. I hope no one saw me on my drive home. I had the most evil smile on my face the whole time. So the collar and chain are hung by the door for when I would need them. My girlfriend has been rolling her eyes at me through all of this, but she's put up with weirder things from me, so she's fine. So after 4 days on the hook, I see Karen down the street. I race for the door and grab the collar with the manic glee of a child at Christmas. When Karen walks by, she sees me holding this monster collar, yelling, "Baskerville! Baskerville, come here, boy!" Followed by lots of whistling and wandering around, looking behind my car, things like that. Karen sees this and her eyes go wide, with pure but silent terror. I started to smile, so I used my hands to cup over my mouth and kept calling for Baskerville and walked behind my house. I was holding in my laughter so hard I may have gotten a hernia, but if I did, it was worth it. I have done this same thing 5 times in the last few weeks, and it's still as fun as the first time. I'm pretty sure I've wasted 14 afternoons of this woman's life. She has spent so much time trying to catch my beloved Baskerville at something she can call the cops on. So far, no one has come to my house, like a cop or whatever, and I'm pretty sure Karen has caught on to what I'm doing. But I only spent $20 on the signs and collar/belt, so I feel like I got my money's worth. The last story is titled, My Wife Just Died, but don't worry, the hunt is on for a new one. Several years ago, I received a call from an old friend's husband that she had drowned while they were on vacation. After describing the accident and the plans for the memorial services, the husband told me not to worry about him, he would be looking for a wife soon. I chalked it up to shock, but the man was always full of himself. Who starts talking about looking for a new wife when his current wife just died? Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.